بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله. It's good to be back home. It's good to be back home. That's the difference between artificial panels and then being surrounded by real cedar wood. Real cedar trees, huge amounts. We went past background. The haters called it green screen, like Bobby J. He called it a green screen. Others said that it was better than the dust watching the train. This is the kind of feedback we get. They said we found the train more interesting than the dars. Shazad Amin, no names mentioned. And but to be honest, I found the train more interesting as well. I watched it back. That train's sick, man, I'm telling you. It's like, I don't know how many miles long it was. But alhamdulillah. Also, I want to embarrass our friend the Mu'min. MashaAllah. We want to give him 1,000 congratulations. He got married whilst I was there as well. And he got married to one that we know very well, we love very much, and assisted with that, mashallah. So 1,000 mubarakat upon you, ya mu'min. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give tawfiq between you. We're very, very happy about that as well. Any news that I need to hear about locally?
Yeah, baby boy.
You had a baby boy? Yeah. MashaAllah, barik from the hope, mashallah. Wa shakartu al-wahib. Abdul Basit, mashallah, blessed with a baby boy, mashallah. All the action happens when I'm away, that's the problem. All the khair is when I'm absent. But alhamdulillah. Well done, bro, mashallah. Everyone's okay, everyone's good, huh? Name? Hey, you see that? There's only one Abu Isa Akhi. Just now prepared to be shaded for the rest of your life. It's okay, bro. It's not too late to change it, it's okay. You're going sticking with it, huh? You'll have to keep it like Abu Isa al-Fransawi. There you go. There you go. Shuf. See, I'll give you some originality like that. And if you win the Euros, then you'll be proud about it as well. Khalas. Right, so should we do dars then? Do we need to do dars as well? I'm just happy to be back. Hajj Abdul Haq is looking at me there, very happy. I'm very happy to see he's attending the dars. We have the trustee Sahab Yani chairman, which means that this is very important dars as well. I'm feeling in good mood, to be honest. Bobby J, what's happening, Yara? Na salam, na dua, na kuch. Okay, alright. So anyway, you'll be glad to know that alhamdulillah we finished the prayer times. Okay, I think a total of 6 or 7 lessons covering all of the matters of the salah times, all the controversies, all the issues, and also what I think which is very nice, all the relevancy, all the points of relevancy in our time. Northern latitudes, persisting twilight, the times of masajid should choose for their Maghrib, Isha, Fajr, Imsak, and all these kind of matters. And it came at a good time because it allows us to make sure that when we enter into the blessed month next week, then we're all going to be able to do that upon yaqeen and certainty. It's very, very important that amongst all the differences of opinion, at the very least that we have a opinion which is the safest, which we know that our fasting is 100% guaranteed, our salah is 100% guaranteed, even though it might require a little change from what is normally the case. So all of that is done. Now, the author, he moves into the interesting area of the nature of the prayer and how it is considered to have been caught. So for example, when is a prayer in its right time? So now we've defined when the times are, and now we have to define when a person has actually prayed in the right time. How does he determine that he has prayed in the right time? Yes, we've said that Maghrib starts when the sun sets. Yes, we've said that Isha starts when the redness in the sky disappears. But what if you can't see the redness in the sky? What if you don't know whether the sun has set? Whether you're what if you're people will turn around and say, well, hey, we use phones and alarms and timetables. What if you're outside and your phone doesn't work? Yeah, and so you have to determine then based upon what you see. And what about if you can't see anything and you're not outside, you're in a building and you have to ask someone? What are the rulings of asking someone? Does that person have to be more knowledgeable than you? Is it permissible to ask another person who is not a master of the time, like you? Is it permissible to ask such a person to help you in order to find out the time? What is the level of trustworthiness and knowledge that's required on behalf of that person? What if that person is a non-Muslim? You are intelligent enough to break the issue down, not to a matter of prayer times, but you're just going to ask him a factual question. Like, what time is it the hottest? Or what time is it that you see the sunset? Or something else in these kind of matters. Where is it that you see the sun come from? And you'll see that non-Muslims, they don't care about these kind of things, and so they don't know. However, if you know what you're talking about, and here I'm more talking about the issue of Qibla, but also the prayer time, okay? Also the prayer time. You will find, for example, that if you are with non-Muslims, those who are older, and those who own houses, especially in the Western countries, they have a great pride over their things like gardens and gardening, and they're very, very aware whether their house is south-facing, north-facing, where the sun is when they wake up, do they feel it or not? So they'll actually be able to give you a very accurate, and sometimes far more accurate than Muslims actually, place of where the sun rises. And we know that if they say to you, the sun rises right there, even though they're inside the location, but they know, then you've already determined east, okay? Then you'll be able to determine west, because they'll say to you, when I get home from work, I always have a cup of tea in my conservatory, and I watch the sunset, and it sets right there. And so then you're able to work out west, for example. Then you can work out southeast for Qibla. You can also then work out then that if the sun rises in the east, and now you go outside and you have a look, and it is now towards the western side of the hemisphere, or towards the shadow is now going towards the east, then you know now the sun's in the west. And if you look at the length of the shadow and how it's increasing, you will know that if the shadow is increasing in size, then you know the Dhuhr has come in already. You know that if the shadow is long and it's now going, you know that Asr is close as well. So there are things that you need to know about how much information you need to find, you can find out from other people, what's permissible, what's not permissible. Okay? So we're going to talk about that inshallah. Let's look at the section then. So we finished وَيَلِهِ وَقْتُ الْفَجْرِ إِلَى طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَتَعْجِيلُهَا أَفْضَلُ. That's what we finished last week. And so today's lesson is قوله وتدرك الصلاة بتكبيرة الإحرام في وقتها ولا يصلي قبل غلبة ظنه بدخول وقتها إما باجتهاد أو خبر ثقة متيقن فإن أحرم باجتهاد فبان قبله فنفل وإلا ففرض. That's, I think, enough for today, inshallah. I don't think we'll do more than that, okay? And so the translation of what I just said is the conditions. No, that's not what it is. The next page. Yes. One has caught the prayer if one performs the opening takbir in its time. One should not pray before feeling that it is very likely that the prayer's time has entered. This is either achieved by trying one's utmost to work it out. That process is called ijtihad, okay? Or B, being informed by someone who is certain. If he makes the opening takbir based on his ijtihad, and it becomes clear that it was before the right time, then the prayer is classed as supererogatory. Yani the prayer is classed as nafil. Otherwise, the prayer is classed as obligatory, meaning it was good enough, okay, as obligatory. All right. So what we're doing here then is talking about something which is going to come in a lot more detail later, okay, when we come to the section of the congregation, because that's where you tend to see the matter of how and when you've caught the prayer more often. This one, as you're going to see in the examples, is going to use an example of the menstruating woman, which is a position that I don't agree with anyway. It's a position which I don't hold anyway. And that is what happens when a menstruating woman, she menstruates during a prayer time where the prayer time has actually entered and she was still pure. Now, of course, according to the Hanabila, you have to make up that prayer because the prayer time was in, the idea was is that you should have prayed, okay, because the prayer time had entered. Whereas we said that actually no, if the prayer time has enough time to pray towards the end of the prayer time, yani you've got 2 hours to pray Dhuhr, for example, then a woman, she has a legitimate excuse to pray for the next 2 hours. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings her hayd upon her at that time, then she had a legitimate excuse not to pray. The alternative is that no, that's why you should pray the prayer in its earliest time, that's why you shouldn't hesitate if this happens, if that happens. We'll say this is something which is too much difficulty upon women, actually too much difficulty upon anyone, to insist they have to pray and make it obligatory to pray at the very first second. So, we're going to be talking about that. Anyway, so the first statement then, وَتُدْرَكُ الصَّلَاةِ, as-salah is what the author used, that the entire prayer, all of it, yani, whether the prayer is obligatory, whether it is voluntary, supererogatory, whether it's a sunnah prayer from the rawatib, meaning yani the sunnah that you pray before a fard prayer and after fard prayer, or any other kind of prayer, every prayer which is determined by time, mu'akkad, meaning temporary prayer, all of these are caught by takbiratul ihram. So what do they mean here? They're not talking about, for example, the 2 sunnah of istikhara. They're not talking about the 2 rak'ah nafal of, for no reason. Okay? Any of these prayers can be prayed at any time, so it doesn't matter whether you pray them here, there, whatever. We are talking about those prayers which are restricted by time, which are restricted to an actual time period itself. So those are the obligatory prayers, and those are the sunnah prayers that come before that obligatory prayer, and then the after. So for example, if we're talking about Dhuhr, then we're talking about the 4 that would come before Dhuhr, and then the 4 that would come after Dhuhr, right? In 2s and 2s and 2s and 2s, etc., etc. So that's what we're talking about. And the Imam here, he says that it's referring that a person catches them by the takbiratul ihram, just takbiratul ihram. What does that mean? First of all, let's explain where he's coming from. He's saying that, and this is why Shaykh Uthaymeen on page 141, he goes, وَتَعْلِيلُ ذَلِكَ, what's the illah? What's the reason for saying that the takbiratul ihram is enough? He says because the juz of something is like the kull of something. Yani, juz say kakullihi, that the part of something is like achieving the full whole thing. So he goes, أن من أدرك تكبيرة الإحرام أدرك جزءا من الوقت وإدراك الجزء كإدراك الكل فالصلاة لا تتبعض. Yani prayer is something which cannot be divided into you couldn't get the prayer and say let's split it into an equal half, or let's split it into quarters, or let's split it into sections. The prayer is one whole thing. So once you've caught it, you've caught all of it. And how is the minimum of catching it? It's like, if someone's running, you don't need to grab the whole person completely, as long as you just be able to touch him. Let me give you a better example. If you're playing kabaddi, okay? Have you played kabaddi before?
You don't have to explain.
You don't need to explain. No, I do. It's a wonderful example. Kabaddi is a wonderful example. Because, now hold on, let me just get the rules right here. You don't need to prevent him from going back.
Tag.
Oh, you just have to tag him. No, so I've got it wrong way around. The other way around. I was thinking about the opposing team. The opposing team, they have to hold him and make sure that he doesn't go, yes? Yes? Yeah. Whereas the attacking team, all he needs to do is a touch. Just touch. Isn't it? As long as he touches that person, then he's taking him out. Whereas the other team, they have to hold onto that guy and completely and prevent him from going. This is real fiqh, by the way. This is a real good example. So like the kabaddi example, in the one who is defending, this is the Hanafi opinion. As for the Hanbali opinion, that is the attacking one. Just touching is enough. If I touch you, I got you. Khalas. I don't need to hold on to you. Whereas the Hanafis would say no. Actually, the majority would say no. They say you have to hold on to a big solid part, yani his leg basically, and not let him get over, and then we consider that you've done a good job. Okay? It's a really good example. I'm impressed with myself, to be honest. I say, mashallah, Bobby. Okay, Jazakallah khair. So, huh?
It's as clear as mud.
It didn't come out very good, did it? Okay, we'll use the salah in a minute. That will maybe become clearer. So the point is, they said that once you've entered and said Allahu Akbar, then the whole prayer has been called. Right? Basically, that's what the Hanbalis said. And Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says, وَهَذَا الْمَشْهُورُ مِنْ مَذْهَبِ Imam Ahmad. And you know that when he says something like that, he's about to yani disagree. He goes, and this is the well-known opinion of the madhab of Imam Ahmad. And you know, something is going to come. He goes that this is the case of whether this is at the beginning of the time or the end of the time. What does that mean? He goes, let me give you an example. He goes, so therefore, according to the Hanabila, if we give an example of the beginning of the time, if there was a woman who, it was time for Salatul Maghrib, okay, and she was able to pray one takbirah, okay, make one takbiratul ihram during the time for Maghrib, alaykum assalam, and then she becomes ha'id, meaning that she goes into menstruation now, yes, after she's been there for literally just, I don't know, imagine Maghrib was 9:26, yes? 9:26 p.m. and there's a woman at home, and actually let's just say that Maghrib is 9:30, entered in 9:30, and there is now 10 seconds, which is all it needs for Takbiratul Ihram to be prayed, yes? To say Allahu Akbar. So if it became 9:30 and 10 seconds, and then the lady goes into menstruation, then according to the Hanabila, you have to make up that prayer. She has to make up that prayer afterwards. Because the prayer had entered by how much of a time? By Takbiratul Ihram. Why Takbiratul Ihram? Because that's the minimum of what a prayer is caught, or the time that's needed in order to actually pray. Okay? Alright. And then an example for another example is how the time at the end would come into play. So that would be, for example, Asr. So now we have a menstruating woman, not a pure woman, a menstruating woman. The menstruating woman, menstruating, state of menstruation, and then she becomes pure. She becomes pure. The length of time of Takbiratul Ihram, say 10 seconds, before the sun sets. So they would say, well, the Hanbalis would say, well, now you've just had enough time to now pray Asr. Because to pray Asr, all you need to do is say Allahu Akbar, Takbiratul Ihram in the time, and that's it. And then that's it. فَإِنَّ الصَّلَاةُ الْعَصْرِ تَلْزِمْهَا. She must pray the Salatul Asr because لأنها أدركت من الوقت المقدار تكبيرة الإحرام هذا من جهة الحكم. So because she had enough time to catch the actual prayer because of the fact that it's a minimum of just Takbiratul Ihram. Okay? And
Is that assuming that she's had time to do the ghusl?
so we're gonna have to critique that, because what kind of position is that? But we don't want to go too hard just yet. We'll let them commit themselves and we'll go in. And so that's min jihat al-hukm. That's the way we look at it from a legal point of view. And then we've got to look at it from a thawab point of view, a sawab. Yeah? So a sawab point of view is different. Yeah? So we have a ruling and we have the reward. What about from an issue of reward? So the reward is exactly the same. Whoever catches anything legally of a prayer has been rewarded for the entire prayer. And that's something which is very important, okay? I just want to get that out of the way. This is the position of the Hanbali madhab. The second position within the Hanbali, from some of the Hanabila, and I'll tell you who else as well. وَالْقَوْلَ الثَّانِي أَنَّهَا لَا تُدْرَكَ الصَّلَاةِ إِلَّا بِإِدْرَاكِ الرَّكَعَةِ. That actually you will only catch the prayer if you catch the rak'ah itself. Okay? You have to catch the rak'ah itself. And this is a position, as I said before, of the Hanafi school, actually the majority of scholars. And it is the position of the class. It is also the position of Shaykh Uthaymeen as well. Okay? And the reason for that is because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أدرك الركعة من الصلاة فقد أدرك الصلاة. So whoever catches a rak'ah, a unit from the prayer, then they have indeed caught as-salah. They have caught the entire prayer. Okay? Whoever, man adraka rak'atan. You see in the indefinite it's mentioned. Rak'atan meaning a unit. Then min as-salah faqad adraka as-salah. Then they have caught the prayer in its entirety. This hadith narrated by Bukhari, narrated by Muslim, and you can find that in Muslim at 607. the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. So this hadith is very, very clear. Shaykh Uthaymeen says that this is also the position of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and a number of the madhahib, as I said. The hadith is zahir, the hadith is very, very clear, and it has what we call a conditional sentence. Man adraka rak'ah faqad adraka. So whoever does this, then that happens. Whoever does that, then that happens. So it's a very clear ruling. A conditional sentence meaning once the condition has been fulfilled, then the result or the consequence is confirmed. So it's difficult to argue about this. Now we need to mention, okay, فعلى هذا لو حاضت المرأة. So if there's a woman now who goes into who would be in Maghrib, for example, and she was to go into menstruation after Maghrib for a time period which is less than a rak'ah, then she wouldn't need to pray. That's according to Shaykh Uthaymeen's position. Okay? That's according to Shaykh Uthaymeen's position. He's increased the length of time. I want to make it very clear that I said that the class position, as we covered in detail here in the chapter of menstruation, the class position is that it doesn't matter if there is 1 whole hour after Maghrib. 1 whole hour after Maghrib and she has not prayed Maghrib. We have said that Maghrib lasts from Maghrib to Isha. And if she did not pray, even though that's not good, but if she falls into menstruation, she does not need to repeat the prayer. Why? Because she's still within the legal bounds. Likewise, if she is in Dhuhr, it's great to pray Dhuhr at the beginning time. But if she doesn't pray at the beginning time and it goes down back towards Asr time, getting close, but she was always planning to pray it, but she's busy, she is working, she's cooking, she's walking, she's whatever she's doing. And all these are legitimate actions. These are all legitimate actions as long as the prayer time is left. She's got it planned in her head. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go X, Y, Z, and I'm going to pray. So we'll say, we understand the argument. They're saying that she should have prayed it when the obligation entered. We say that she has the right to pray later. So we're not going to obligate upon her to make up those prayers. Everyone clear? Remember that, yeah, from our discussion? Or has everyone forgotten all that? That was clear, sah? That's what we said from the back then? Blank faces? MashaAllah. Back then, yeah? 1 year ago? 8 months ago, man. It's not that long ago. Okay? It was good fun, then. We're doing that again, brothers, or not? One weekend, yeah, smash, yeah? We need to have a debate about that, yeah? So, is that clear, yes? So, the next point then, the next point is, what Saeed just mentioned, and even if you were to fulfill this position, would it be based upon rak'ah anyway? How can we say to a woman that for example, the one at Asr, if she is menstruating, that she would need to pray if there is enough time for rak'ah? Can you imagine? So let me make the example clearer. Is the fact that she is in Asr time with 1 minute to go, because that's the length of time we're going to say is 1 rak'ah. Is she obligated to pray that Asr? Are we expecting her to suddenly, all of a sudden, check that she is pure and then be pure and then ghusl and then get ready and then pray in 1 minute? It's difficult. So we have to take this. I don't think that this issue should be based upon, and this is, of course, there's no hadith on the matter, so it goes down to ijtihad of the ulama, and it's clear that they differed over this, and so therefore we're talking about enough time for a person to be ready to pray. That's what the ruling should be based upon when it comes to at the end of a prayer time. As for the beginning of a prayer time for a pure woman, if she becomes menstruating, then prayer is cut from her. She didn't need to pray. Now, if she hadn't prayed the Maghrib for some reason and it had now entered into Isha time, then she, of course, is in trouble and she needs to make up that Maghrib prayer because there's no reason that she didn't catch it. Shaykh Uthaymeen says something else. He says, also based upon this, we will determine a number of other rulings about catching the prayer, such as, for example, catching the jama'ah, the congregation. So, is a congregation also caught by rak'ah, or is it caught by takbiratul ihram? Okay, is that clear? Is the congregational prayer, when you come to Maghrib and you join late, is the prayer caught if you catch rak'ah, or is it caught when you catch takbiratul ihram? Now, I want to say to you here that we're not going to discuss the details of this here yet. You know why Shaykh Uthaymeen gives this literally 2 lines? And this is a massive subject. And he doesn't go into detail. And the reason's clear, because as I said to you before, there needs to be a difference. We need to create a difference between the two. So for example, there's a difference between the reward and there's a difference between the ruling. So for example, if a person catches the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar, and the Imam is within the, let's say in sajda, so there's no chance of you catching rak'ah, for example, do you still get the reward of the prayer? Do you? Is it the same as saying that you caught the prayer or caught that unit? Okay, these are different. These 2 things are clearly different. So for example, if the person is praying Salatul Maghrib and they're in the first rak'ah and you walk in and the Imam is reciting a surah, and then just as you say Allahu Akbar, the Imam goes Allahu Akbar, then you will join this person in ruku'. Yeah? Listen carefully to this. This is important. Okay? If the Imam is in ruku' and you join them in ruku', then you caught that Imam in ruku'. Okay? Remember that. Now, we're going to ask the following questions. The first question is, what have you actually done by joining that prayer in ruku'? Here's what you've done. Number 1, you have got the reward of that congregational prayer because you actually entered into the prayer of the Imam. And that, we're going to work out what are the limits. And I'll tell you what we discuss now, what we discuss later. The second thing that needs to be asked, did we catch that rak'ah or not? Is the rak'ah to be judged the same for the congregation and for praying in the time? What do I mean? We know there's another hadith narrated by Abu Dawood, hadith which is sahih. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man adraka al-ruku' faqad adraka al-rak'ah." That whoever catches the ruku', then they have caught the rak'ah. Okay? This hadith is different. Man adraka al-rak'ah min as-salah faqad adraka as-salah. It's like a bigger hadith. Whoever catches 1 unit of the prayer, then he has caught the prayer. Whereas the hadith I just quoted, whoever catches the ruku' of the prayer, they have caught the entire rak'ah. Question for you. What is a rak'ah? What is a rak'ah? What is 1 unit? Standing until standing. Very good. Okay? 1 unit is standing until standing because it is the beginning of the first pillar until the beginning of the same pillar again. So it is standing until standing. So here's the issue. When we are talking about time and when we are talking about jama'ah, we're talking about 2 different things. So for example, let's go back to the time thing. Any one of us here praying Salatul Asr is getting late. You're at work. You look at the time, I'm going to pray at home. I've got time. You get stuck in the traffic. You get home. Literally you have 2 minutes to pray. You have wudu and you jump in. Okay? And you know for a fact that the sun has not set yet. 2 minutes is setting. Your sunset time or maghrib time is saying 2 minutes. Now you need to pray. How do we know that a person has caught that prayer? What would we want that person to do? Let me hear what you've got to say. What are the various options? A ruku'. Okay, we've got 1 option to get a ruku' of what? 1 rak'ah? Okay? 1 ruku'. Don't go by what I said, because I haven't said that yet. So, yeah. Just the end of the salah, the full prayer. Entering the salah. So just takbiratul ihram. Yep. And you've caught the prayer. Exactly what the Hanbalis say. Alright, the Hanbalis would say, as long as you said Allahu Akbar and the sun set, your full prayer, you carry on praying, it's fully valid. That's basically what they're saying. That's what the Hanbalis are saying. Alright, good. We heard another opinion. You need to catch the first ruku' of the first rak'ah. Okay, yep. Why sujood? Yani that's the sign of a complete rak'ah. Yani. So what you're basically saying is 1 rak'ah, and the measuring of 1 rak'ah is to actually get to sajda, because that's the last pillar of the entire unit, which is an acceptable opinion. Good. And then the final one, which should be obviously stand back up again. Okay? So that would mean that you would pray one full unit and stand back up again. And if you hadn't, then you have not caught then rak'ah. That would be the fourth opinion. Is that clear? Can you see the four different opinions? Yeah, let me just start again with the four opinions and we'll do it in like a timeline. So the easiest and the most simplest, the Hanbali opinion. Just got to say Allahu Akbar, then you can relax. Yes, then you pray like normal. The second opinion would be you have to zoom all the way through to the end of Fatiha, make a decision, surah or not, and go into ruku'. You've caught the prayer. Third opinion is that the rak'ah itself ends with the final pillar of that first unit, which will be the sajda. So you got to get into the end of the second sajda. Yes, of the first rak'ah. Now you can relax for the rest of the prayer and pray normal. Fourth opinion, you'd have to burn all the way through the full unit. Ruku' to sujood and stand back up again, because here the rak'ah is being counted from standing to standing. Did you understand the four positions? Your comments, yeah.
What basis are you doing fourth opinion?
That it is the end point is the beginning point of the next pillar.
So in my fourth rak'ah, let's say I'm doing an asr.
Yep.
I don't stand in my fourth rak'ah.
Yes, but it's the end point of that particular unit. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because there is no restand, it is the end point of...
There's no hadith.
No, completely no hadith. Absolutely. And that's the reason why we have this discussion. Because there is no hadith.
No, there is a hadith.
Go on. Yep.
That's a hadith, right?
That's talking about the rak'ah. You're talking... Yes. Okay? That's why this discussion is in existence. Because of these variables that are potential when you see few hadith and many potentials. And actually it gets even bigger than what you just said. Because now we'll have to ask ourselves, is this hadith of man adraka al-ruku' faqad adraka al-rak'ah, was this hadith only revealed to do with the congregation, or was this hadith referring to all prayers at all times? That's also another discussion which the ulama said. And some of them said that it is specific to congregational prayer only. And that when it comes to the actual prayer being caught, then that's talking about an individual prayer. An individual prayer. And that's why I said that the big discussion will come later, but we still want to have some comments on it now. Yeah.
How do you know that someone's set halfway through?
Yeah, that's the question I was thinking.
If you're around the hills, you can tell.
If let's say you have literally like 30 seconds, and you can think as long as you want after prayer,
Yeah.
and go like, you know what? Actually, how long did it last? How long did my first rak'ah?
I personally think it's a lot easier inside than it is outside. First of all, outside you can tell. There's no doubt about that, where you can tell when the sun is set. But inside, if you know I've got 2 minutes to pray, everyone, well, I'm assuming that everyone has a general idea of how quickly they pray.
Yeah, fair enough. But if we're talking like 30 seconds or 20 seconds, then it becomes much more complicated, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt. Just hope that people are not doing that on a regular basis.
Even with a minute or two, I mean, if you're going by timetables, some timetables make allowances for the sunset.
Yep.
So the timetable, is after.
Yep.
Arab time starts after the sunset.
Yeah.
Minutes after.
If a person is obviously miskeen and he got caught up with that timetable as well, so he's not only is he late, not only did he make a mistake or whatever it is by not praying in an earlier time, he's now delayed it to the last second, so he's stuffed anyway. Then he's double stuffed by having a timetable which has given him a adjusted 3-minute late time for sunset, and he's actually already praying in sunset time. Miskeen he is. So he's triple miskeen.
Then that's why you shouldn't depend on timetables. Because
Oh, my point entirely.
if you go back, they weren't counting seconds.
Correct.
In the previous, centuries.
Correct. That's also by the
Minutes even.
indeed. That's also a very good support for the Hanbali position. That's also a very good support for the Hanbali position. That how does one even understand the concept of time, or how long I'm going to pray or not going to pray, whatever, as long as I give takbir and khalas. All of these positions you'll see has a strong point and a negative point that can be debated and discussed. Yep.
Say there's literally 5-7 seconds there.
Yes.
Do you start a prayer?
Yes, you would. We're going to say that you would, in our class position, we're going to say that you would start anyway, regardless. Okay? And that's something which is, and I'm going to explain that why in a minute. You're going to say something? So, now I want you to understand now, how are we going to deal with this? Okay? We have all these different types of hadith. We've got a position that we've got to try and hold. If you say to someone that you, for example, now let's talk about Fajr. Yes? So a person, he wakes up late and he looks outside and he sees that, or looks at his watch or whatever, and it's very, very late. So he's got literally a few minutes to make his decision, and quickly get the prayer sorted. So he comes out, makes wudu, and he comes out now and he's about to start to make the salah. Do we now say to this person that before the sun rises, you have to catch the full the takbir al-ihram wa khalas, or that he needs to get to the ruku', or he needs to do the rak'ah? According to the majority of the imams, they said he needs to do full rak'ah, okay, and not the ihram like we just said. But here's what complicates it. As we were saying, the hadith that we just mentioned, it suggests that to catch the full rak'ah, all you would need to do is to get to ruku', isn't it? Do you understand what I'm saying or not? That if I am only going to catch the prayer if I pray an entire rak'ah, that's what the hadith says. Man adraka rak'ah min as-salah faqad adraka as-salah. Whoever catches a rak'ah from the prayer, then he has caught the prayer. So my question to you, in the presence of this other hadith that says, Man adraka al-ruku' faqad adraka al-rak'ah. So the second hadith says that if you catch the ruku', you've caught the rak'ah. Would we argue and say that in order to actually catch the prayer, you just need to catch the ruku' of the first rak'ah? Do you get the question now?
Well, why
Did you get the question first?
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, why do the Hanafis have this opinion in the presence of that hadith?
That's what?
The Hanabila. Well, why would they say you just need to do the ihram when there's a hadith you say?
Oof, now you're asking difficult question.
Does that second one not refer to the catching the congregation?
That's my opinion, and that's the opinion of some of the scholars. And in actual fact, not just some of the scholars, the earlier madhahib did not apply this hadith to the one of the time. That's what I said to you. I said to you that they said that man adraka al-ruku' is specific to the congregation and catching it. And as for rak'ah, they want them to pray the full with the sajda. They expect it to be prayed full with the sajda and then to stand up or attempt to stand up. The point is that you start to arise from the sajda for you to catch it. This is not an easy mas'ala. This is not an easy mas'ala. And I want to say to you that when I teach this position and my class position, I want you to listen very carefully what you should believe as an individual. I believe that every person should believe that they have to stand up from one complete rak'ah before they consider that they have caught the prayer. Does that make sense? That way you will cover all of the safest positions. You will cover all of the risky positions and you will be upon safety. All the khilaf will be covered. Because you got some that say takbiratul ihram, wa khalas, that's enough. You got some that small minority, that said if you just get to the ruku', that's enough. And that's a super small minority. Why? Because they said that hadith of man adraka al-ruku' faqad adraka al-rak'ah specific to the jama'ah only. It doesn't apply to when you're praying at home. It doesn't apply when you're praying before the time. And the third position is that you would then apply that hadith that's narrated by Bukhari and Muslim, that whoever catches the rak'ah, then they have caught the prayer. Okay? Now in response to your question, I don't want to open it massively, but just to fulfill you at least intellectually for this tonight's lesson, you said, why would the Hanabila ignore that hadith? Okay? The one that says, the one who catches the rak'ah, then they have caught the prayer, and they say that takbiratul ihram is still only what is required. I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to give someone else a chance. I have mentioned it before. Huh?
Part of something is like catching.
That would be a logical argument, but they have a textual argument as well. Anyone?
They have two different rulings for the prayer when you're alone and when you're in congregation.
That wouldn't help him here, would it? Because at the very least, this would apply to the minimum, the individual. That wouldn't help him in this particular case. Yep. Anyone? The answer is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran uses various words for the prayer. وَرَكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Yani this means يعني صَلِّ مَعَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. That's what it basically means. Okay? وَاسْجُدْ. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, make sajda. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes calls the prayer tasbih, fasabbih. Okay? So, their argument is that the word rak'ah here means as-salah. That whoever has caught the prayer, this is their argument, okay? Any part of the prayer, then they have caught the entire prayer as well. So this is their textual argument. They would say that as long as someone has caught something from the prayer in any recognizable way, then they have entered. So like I said, this is an interesting point. We respect their position, but the safest position is that you need to do a full rak'ah. There are some that would restrict it only to ruku'. We say no. That actually for legal purposes, I want you to mentally think this. If you are at home before sunrise, the time is running out, you must think that I need to definitely get one full rak'ah done, then I can relax in my second rak'ah. I say relax. Why? Because it will be a fool who goes, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and then decides to recite, Surah Al-Najm or Surah Rahman or something like that. You say, you don't recite no surah, just bam, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil Azim, once, Sami Allahu Alhamdulillah Rabbana wa lakal hamd, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil Ala, once. You need to get that rak'ah done quick. It needs to be a super smooth, quick rak'ah. Alright, stand up, now you can relax. Now it doesn't matter now what happens. You can now take 10-15 minutes on the second rak'ah, pray proper salah, proper surah, proper everything. This is actually one of the senior mashayikh. I remember having this discussion with him a number of years ago, and he said something interesting. He said one of the big mistakes people make is that when they do catch a prayer late, but they have caught it, they rush up the second unit as well, which is wrong and an insult to the prayer, because you're already attacking the prayer in the first rak'ah by shaving it completely unrecognizable, no surah, no little tasbih, little whatever. So we should therefore pray that first one quick, the second one should be a proper unit. Or if it's for example Salatul Asr, when Maghrib has entered, then likewise the first rak'ah is very quick and the rest three are proper. Yeah.
This position, what is it supported by?
Which one?
The full
because they have caught the prayer. Once the prayer has been caught, the prayer is now valid and legal.
Yeah, but what
we also covered this two lessons ago in the hadith of Salatul Asr as well. If you remember, go back, if you check your notes, we said about the Prophet ﷺ saying that as long as one person catches one unit before the Fajr and one before the Asr. You remember that one? Yeah? It's there, just 2 weeks ago. Yeah. But not 2 weeks ago. Maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Well, there's no doubt it's very difficult to hold on to it, yeah. Because it's a lot of rush in the mind, yeah. And obviously you'd still have some kind of, you'd have some portion, but I mean, it's obviously a rush, isn't it? That's exactly what the problem is that you have brought upon yourself when you are in that situation. Okay? Right. The next point then is وَلَا يُصَلِّ قَبْلَ غَلَبَةِ ظَنِّهِ بِدُخُولِ وَقْتِهَا. That a person should not pray, okay, if he is not sure that the prayer has actually entered, okay, that it is that is talking about now about the different levels of certainty that a person has, okay, with respect to the prayer. So you would go, I think, between 4 or 5 stages. Let's count them. You are 100% sure that the prayer has not entered. You think on the balance of probabilities, okay, that the prayer has not entered. You're not sure if the prayer has entered. You think on the balance of probabilities that the prayer has entered, and you are sure that the prayer has entered. So there are 5 states that you can have with respect to the salah and your belief about its time. Is that clear? Not clear. What does it say? Read it to me.
One should not pray before feeling that it's very likely that the prayer's time has entered.
And that's on the balance of probabilities.
Huh?
That's on the balance of probability that you believe that prayer is time has entered.
Isn't that what it says? We're done with the thing. We're going back to you, Shaz. What's supposed to say? I can't see it. Move it up.
You just repeated that.
I can't see it. No, the other way. Down. I can only see the top part, Shaz. The other way, Yara. The other way. Okay, I can't see anything, Yara. Just read it to me. How have I translated it?
One should not pray before feeling that it is very likely that the prayer's time has entered.
Yeah, is that, you don't think it's well translated?
One should not pray before feeling that it's very likely that the prayer's time has entered.
Yeah.
I think that's double. That was confusing.
You need to have reached a certain.
You need to have reached at least the balance of probabilities that the prayer time has entered before you pray. That's what that text says,
So
but it's not translated well.
So what? Not 100% sure.
Not 100% sure, exactly.
So what would you say in terms of percentage?
In terms of percentage, if you remember, I think we did that a couple of years ago, right?
So 100% is certain.
100% certain.
50
51
To
99.
51 to 99 is a dhan, or a ghalabat al-dhan, okay? Shak is 50.
Yeah.
And then we said that yani, the ghalabat al-dhan on the other side is everything under 49%.
So would you
Yeah.
say from 51?
So 51% to 99 is the balance of probabilities, meaning that you are more certain than not that the prayer time has entered. If you are in that position, you pray. That is where you pray. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you the explanation here. So, for example, he goes. So Shaykh Uthaymeen. So therefore, he goes. What do we learn from this statement? أنه يجوز. It is therefore permissible to pray that as long as a person thinks that the time has entered. So, for example, if it's very, very cloudy outside, وَشَهَدْنَا الشَّمْسِ قَدْ غَرَبَتْ. Okay, we look and we see that the sun has set. Okay, then the sun has set. We have yaqeen and we pray. But if the cloudiness is so cloudy that you can't see the sun at all, but you're pretty sure that the sun has set, then you will pray anyway. Nusalli. And this is the second prayer, is the prayer based upon probability. So the first one is 100%, and the second one was something between 51 to 99% that you believe that the prayer has been established. Okay. Now, you might say, what is the and this is something which is obvious. Okay. Sheikh also then mentions وهو الصلاة بناء على غلبة الظن. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also did something very similar upon the غلبة الظن, يعني based upon the probability, balance of probabilities. And this is the hadith of Asma bint Abi Bakr radiyallahu anhuma, that she said, أفطرنا على عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في يوم غيم ثم طلعت الشمس. That we broke our fast, okay, at the time of the Prophet during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, based upon what we thought was happening. Okay, yani based upon what we thought was happening on a cloudy day. So the day yani was not clear, the sun was not clear, it was not yani something which was obvious, but we based it upon the balance of probabilities. That hadith is narrated by Bukhari, hadith 1959. Okay, hadith 1959. So and then the sun risen. Yani this is talking about the next day. It's not relevant to this point. Yeah.
It didn't rise proving they were wrong.
Correct. Because it wouldn't rise, it would be setting. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Because of
No, it's just the way it's
yes,
phrased.
I know. That's the reason why I didn't translate it fully. I didn't want to cause more confusion, because this is now talking about the next day. Yeah, say it again. Yeah.
Let's say I pray based on my own ijtihad,
Mm-hmm.
and I prayed, let's say, too early, and then I meet someone that has a phone and timetable and all this,
Yes.
and basically my friend tells me, okay, prayer just started 5 minutes ago. and I started 7 minutes ago.
We're going to come to that right now. Let's go through the options, okay, inshallah. So, here's the question. Sheikh now starts putting a few points up. So I think that's very clear. That if a longer person feels that a person should actually be able to pray during this time, then that the time has entered and he feels strongly that's the case, then he does that. So the question then, هل يصلي مع الشك في دخول الوقت? Does a person pray if he is doubtful about whether the time has entered or not? Yes, should he pray or not? And Sheikh says, no, لا يصلي مع الشك وذلك لأن الأصل العدم. This is because the basic principle with respect to the prayer is that it's not in. So that's like the status quo, is that a prayer time has not entered. So it is not permissible to allow doubt to create to allow doubt to enter the prayer, to make the prayer enter. Is it permissible to pray if he's sure, or the balance of probabilities is that the time has not entered? So now we're going lower down the scale, and of course this is absolutely something which is not correct. Not correct. The prayer is invalid. Then the third scenario: should a person pray if he knows for definite that the time has not entered? And the Sheikh said that of course is haram. You'll be sinful for that because you're playing with the prayer. Okay, so that's with respect to the actual time. So therefore, the Sheikh now will conclude. He says, therefore, you will pray in 2 times, and you will not pray in 3 times, and you will pray in 2 times. Okay, so the times that you will pray is when you are definitely sure that the prayer has entered, and when you think that the prayer has entered. In these 2 scenarios, you will pray. And لكن لو تيقن في السورة الثانية أنه صلى قبل الوقت لازمته الإعادة وتكون الأولى نفلا. So therefore, if a person was to make a judgment call and pray, and then he realized that he started the prayer before the time started, then he has to repeat the prayer. And the one that he prayed already, this was nafal, and the one that he prays now is the obligatory prayer. Is that clear? Okay, that's the answer to your question. And the 3 times that a person does not pray is that if he's not sure if the time has entered, if he thinks the time has not entered, and if he knows that the time has not entered. Is that clear, everybody? Okay. And Sheikh also makes a final, I think, good point. And he says that what we also learn from this is that some acts of worship are based upon probability and not always certainty. And I think that's also a very useful point. That the ability to think about our deen is an important aspect. That they are not always, you don't always have absolute certainty that For example, this happens in a tawaf, and it happens if the shaitan comes to join a prayer as well. So we know, for example, that the Prophet ﷺ said that in the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, that if a person, he knows, he forgets what rak'ah is he on, third or fourth, yes? And so we know that if he thinks about it and says, no, I'm in my third, then the prayer continues, and he basically builds it upon that. Even though it is also a position where if he doesn't know, then he assumes 3, even if he's prayed 4, and he builds upon it. So you've got always 2 scenarios. And that's why we say that when we study sajda sahu, you will see that we have 2 different types of sajda sahu. We have the sajda sahu, which is when a person builds upon doubt, therefore he takes the minimum number, therefore he will end up praying either 4 or 5, and for that we will now make him do the taslim, for example, after, alright, the sajda sahu, after he gives taslim. Or for example, we have a person who he builds upon his before the taslim. So before he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, he will then go for 2 sajda. Or you will have a person who sits there and he thinks about it, and he stands there, he thinks about it, and then he quickly reviews it, then he realizes, no, I'm okay. I'm in my 3rd rak'ah. And then he will finish off the prayer, and in the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, after he gives the taslim, he will do 2 anyway. And this 2 anyway is not because he made a mistake, And not because he forgot anything, but because he went through the process of having to think about it during the prayer. And this is something which you will come to it in the right time. And the same for the tawaf. The same for the tawaf as well. Exactly, if there comes an issue of numbers. Okay? Let's have the adhan then, I think. Is it entered? Yeah? Let's have the adhan. We need the conclusion. I have no idea what the conclusion was.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله لا رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة محمد الوسيلة. So I think that's enough, inshallah, for this session. I think what we're going to do now is basically just agree what the plan is for the rest of the year. This is of course the final session. Okay, and with it being the final session, and that ends year 4. Now we just need to agree on what the plan is for year 5 and some points. So this is all not set in stone, okay? And everyone who is watching this particular lesson, I'd like you guys to comment on the portal with your own suggestions and ideas. But this is something like what it's going to go ahead with. So there's a couple of things we need to confirm. 1 is the notes and everything for this class. 2 is the revision sessions for all of this. When I say this class, I mean the year. The second then is the revision notes by the revision team. The third would be an exam for this year, as well as Bab al-Hayd, the chapter of menstruation. And then the fourth is then a decision on an intensive weekend, and then the restart. So first of all, inshallah, during Ramadan and for the end of Ramadan, we hope to have all of our notes all up to date. Okay, inshallah, that's all the transcribed notes for everything which is owing. So that's the menstruation, and that's for this year, etc., etc. Okay, that's the first thing you need to know, inshallah. The second thing is that we're going to have revision sessions for the exam, and as it stands now, there will be 4 revision sessions, and they are penciled in for the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st of August. Okay, those are voluntary revision sessions, but they proved very, very useful by feedback from all the students who have taken them. 10, 17, 24, 31, okay, of August. The exam date at the moment is cited for the 24th and the 25th of September. Okay, online, 1 hour, whatever. The 24th, 25th of September, that exam date will include the remainder of Najasa. It will include Bab al-Hayl, menstruation, and it will be the conditions of the prayer up until now. The next question is, do we have another intensive weekend? So let's have a quick there's an idea that we would restart the year around year 5, academic year 5 would start around the 5th of October or the 12th of October, something like that. In that region. 5th of October, 12th of October. Maybe even a week before, I don't know, but we'll look at that. So the only remaining question is that maybe October 1st, 2nd, that weekend, do people want to do the repeat of what we did last year, which is an intensive weekend on, for example, the conditions of the prayer, and smack out a whole big section with all of the pros and cons that came with last time? No, it would be exactly like we did menstruation.
We did menstruation on the weekend because
It was a complete subject.
we all thought that was boring as well.
Maybe. Just a quick show of hands. Who? Put your hands up if you think that we should do an intensive weekend of 1st and 2nd. I don't know.
Actually, this week will be different. We'll just take lesson by lesson it will be, rather than aiming for an end point.
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily an end point whatever, but I think the point that you should focus on more is that it would be the same speed, the same quality, taqriban, as the menstruation. I don't know of an end point. I can create an end point. I don't know. I need to think about that. That's going to require planning. And I'll do that. But I need to know that, our feedback generally seems that it was a positive thing. So, what do we think? Okay. Who's against the idea? You're against the idea. Too quick, yeah? And Abdul, same reason.
No.
You're,
I'm fine with it.
oh, you're good with the idea?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Any sisters against the idea?
Who wants it? Who wants it?
The ones are the more at the moment, but let's just see who doesn't.
No. I'm saying I'm not against it. It doesn't mean I'm for it.
The alternative
I wouldn't mind it.
The alternative is that we just carry on.
Then we have this summary at the end of the logical kind of chapter we're in now,
Yeah, I think no.
rather than at the end of year 5. Because I don't know if this is going to finish sometime in year.
Yes, it will. But the idea is that we can probably get quite into the meat of the next section as well. That would be the idea. I think more people are for it than against it.
The point of the menstruation on the 2 weekends was that we didn't want to lengthen it out
Yes.
a number of months,
Yes.
not years.
Yes.
We wanted to use
Correct.
it, yeah. Well, the prayer is something that's going to have plenty of questions. We're constantly using it, at both sides.
Right.
Dealing with the issues daily basis.
So it doesn't make so much sense.
I actually think that the last year was. You should take this, if we're going to do an intensive weekend, it will be done exactly like we are doing now, but it will just be 2 days of LP.
Okay, keep up to date. There's some arguments going back and forth.
The point is that we want to finish within our lifetime.
That's a great point. But now the Salah is here, so we'll have a discussion about that. Jazakumullah khair, everybody. Keep on the portal. Keep an eye on the portal. That's where the information is, and the emails. Wa jazakumullah khair. It's been a long and great year, bifadlillah, and it finishes. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Wa astaghfiruka Allahumma wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.